do consider speeding up with settings to consume this content in a fraction of the time. Newbie Dice Podcast.
Hey everyone, this is General Gaddafi, or more Gaddafi as people in the UK like to call me. I am along with Page. We are both Kings of War players from Singapore. This episode is going to be about the Clash of Kings journey for myself, and also with the mastermind, one of the masterminds, at least the most visible one behind Clash of Kings UK 2023, which was the largest Kings of War tournament ever in the history, I guess. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the episode. It's going to be a fun one. So over to you, Paige.
Next, we have Steve.
Hello, I'm Steve. Or Stephen, I'm very formal on this. Look at that. I'm going to change my name. I know. Are we on the internet as well?
Steven Hildrew or Stefan Hildrew.
I don't know how to change my name on this. I'm going to try and do that. Hello, it's me. I'm just the one with the biggest ego.
Probably the most recognizable name and
there
voice.
So yeah, I'm
right
Steve
now.
from Death by Dragons, and I'm the lead TO of Kings of Clash. Oh jeez, it's early morning. Clash of Kings, which is and was the world's biggest Kings of War tournament, which Page didn't come to because he sucks.
So I'm Page from Newbie Dice Podcast, and yeah, today I have my two guests with me, Gad and Steve. So we're here to talk about the UK Clash of Kings. So before we go into it, let's just do a quick self-intro. I think a lot of people have heard or seen Steve in his videos, but let's remind everyone, what's your origin story? How do you come into Kings of War and gaming in general?
Oh wow! So I played about 4 games of Warhammer when I was about 12, and then I sat in my mum's loft and painted miniatures on my own for about 3 years because no one would play with me. And then I grew up and stopped playing with those. And then about 25 years later, my mum said, "Do you want these toy soldiers? I'm clearing out my loft." And I went, "My little men!" And so I got all the stuff out of my mum's loft. And then because I'm a ruthless, heartless vigilante? No, I sold them all for large quantities of money and bought. And I was looking for I took them because I thought I'd play a game with my son, who was 12 at the time. He's now turning 17. And he was cordially disinterested in anything to do with any games. And I looked up Warhammer and found it didn't exist anymore. I went, "Oh, what do I do now?" Then I remember I got some forum and somebody said, "Oh, we're all playing Kings of War now." I don't know where, I probably read it or something like that. So I found Kings of War and I found some relatively local players, and I realized that I liked playing it more than my son did, and I carried on that. And then because I'm an obsessive personality, I then created a YouTube channel, mostly because I wanted to be like Visibly Riley. Is he alive? No one knows. And learn from my games and all that kind of stuff. And it grew from there. And then last year I went to London GT, which was where Clash of Kings was. And I had a couple of beers and suggested to Ronnie Renton that the players run the tournament. And then I ended up running it. And there you go. That's my very short form origin story.
So what's that stash that you sold for a lot of money?
Oh, what did I have? I was an undead player in Warhammer. I had a lot of undead minis. I had a lot of original Space Marines, a lot of Harlequins, some Eldar miniatures. What else did I have? I didn't sell my brother's dwarves. I still have my brother's dwarves because they're not mine, they're my brother's. Mm-hmm. I didn't repaint them. I couldn't be bothered. I got my friend Russell to repaint them for me. And occasionally I bring them out. I'm terrible with dwarves. Never won a game with them. What else did I just like a huge box. You know how you just end up with a box of bits? Well, it turns out if you put a box of bits on eBay, people buy them furiously because they're desperate to get hold of all the old bits that are in there because they're worth quite a lot of money. Wow. My biggest regret is because I did this before I found out about actually how much things are worth. And I had like a broken Land Raider and a Rhino and all those kind of tanks. And they were literally smashed. But people will still buy those for parts for a lot of money. And we just threw those away. They went in a skip. So there you go. Happy days. Oh, and I had an epic 40k. I had a full boxed set of that with all the buildings. Sold that. I've still got some of the books. I've still got the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay books because they're a bit dog-eared, so I don't think anyone wants them. But I had original 3rd edition Road Trader game, all that kind of stuff. And I really don't care about things. People that get really attacked, this is my precious thing. I don't care. I let go of it all. So I sold it all. Yeah.
For someone who just dabbled a little bit, you did buy a lot of stuff.
I mentioned the obsessive personality, right?
Yes.
So I these like 3 years of Christmases and pocket money I kind of put into collecting stuff. I I used to collect. We had a brilliant shop in where I grew up in North London called the Model Shop, which just isn't there anymore. It's a gym now. Occasionally drive past it, and it was full of everything. It was like a model rail shop, but also it also had Warhammer stuff, and it also had like role playing games like GURPS, the generic universal role playing system. And GURPS came with 2,000 supplement books, and they were really exciting to someone who's kind of we didn't have the internet in those days because I'm very old. And I just kind of leafed through all these kind of books. So I've got like a copy of Paranoia, the original Paranoia role playing game, which, if you haven't heard of, is brilliant fun. It's totally stupid, and lots of stuff like that. And like I found a copy of an Elric of Melniboné, Michael Moorcock game called Stormbringer, which I've never heard of anywhere, but it's a board game and it's a role playing game as well. Actually, I really like Michael Moorcock. And I've got a game called Wizard's Quest that no one's ever heard of. All these kind of like independent role playing and board game producers used to put out these tiny games on cardstock. They probably still do, but I've got a few of those still lying around. So I was quite obsessive. Still am.
Well, I always thought of you as a too cool for a wargaming kind of person, but now your nerd rating just shot through the roof.
I'm the biggest nerd ever. Absolutely.
Right.
If I've got any friends to play with. No.
All right, Gad, just a quick intro for yourself.
Yeah, so myself, me and my best friend Alex, who now runs the local gaming store, Hammer House, we dabbled in Warhammer Fantasy when I was 7 and he was 12. So he got me to paint his skeletons for him. We didn't really actually play any games. He just bought models, we painted them, we didn't really find anyone to play with. Then after a while, his mom threw away all his stuff, sadly. Then a couple years later, we wanted to come back into the game. Then we went back into Fantasy 8th edition, Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, until the world blew up and we found Kings of War. I mean, I found Kings of War first. Then we started it. There was 2nd edition. I think there was 2015 or 2016 or so, something like that. Maybe 2017. So we've been playing that ever since. I remember at first it was just me and Page playing, but now we have quite a good group of people, good healthy community with new players, both Warhammer refugees, some from other games like War Machine, and some totally new to the game itself, which is a good sign of things to come. So I've been playing. The ironic thing is I've been playing elves. I was playing Wood Elves in Warhammer Fantasy, but when I started with Kings of War, I wanted to go dwarves, which is because the dwarves in Kings of War are very different from the traditional fantasy trope. They have rock riders on badges, which is super cool. It resonated with me, and I thought it'd be ironic me playing dwarves when I'm generally a pretty tall person. So yeah, I'm moved on to another short faction, Halflings, having quite a bit of fun with them. I think they are really good lists, lots of choices. There's no clear cut list archetypes that you have to take or any master units. I think it's a great faction and I'm having fun with that. And I'll share a bit more about my halfling adventures, including painting the army just before the event. That was quite a adventure. So yeah, mainly play Kings of War, has since dabbled in Dead Zone and also Firefight. Dead Zone is awesome as a skirmish game. I think it's the best skirmish game out there in the market, bar none. So yeah, and also Armada. I've been trying to. I mean, me and Paige had a couple of games of Armada, but I'm a bit behind on the painting queue for that. So yeah, that's generally my origin story. I am also a nerd, and I let me tell you, Steve is a total nerd. I mean, what I like to do when I visit people is to look at the books they have, and Steve is like nerd. I mean, he's a nerd. Yeah, he's just like most of us. So yeah, those can be deceiving.
Well,
What do you
He
Paige?
also went through my drawers, which is, to mind your own damn business. That's what I'm saying.
He read Rise of the Celestians, which I've not read.
Look, it's so good, guys. Really, it's excellent. Really, very good book. Very big fan.
We're just having a bit of trouble getting the books in Singapore. I mean, I've actually contacted Wing Hasa, seeing if they can sponsor or can send some books for our clash later.
Yeah.
I mean, next year. So that's because Mantic has no stock for the books. Apparently, they don't order a lot of stock. Then it's all sold out, and Amazon doesn't want to ship it to us. Something like that. I don't know. We'll get the books. I have most of the books at the moment.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, it's your fault for living, in a nice country. It's come live in England where it rains all the time. I suppose.
Right. So a little bit about myself. I started playing Warhammer 8th edition back in 2012 when I just started working. Played it for a year, didn't really like it. I went to War Machine and Hordes. Played it for 3 years. Was tired of it. And so I went to look for Gad because I knew that he was with Warhammer all the way until it exploded and he went to Kings of War. So liked the game immediately and we've been building the community ever since. And Gad is the perfect guy to do a demo. He brings people into the game while I just try to support with tactical and analysis and stuff like that. So yeah, and just a little bit about hobby updates. So Steve, are you burnt out after running Clash of Kings? It's been 4 weeks since the event? 4 to 5 weeks. So how are you feeling right now?
No, not at all. Because I didn't actually get to play Kings of War. I got to watch everyone else having a nice time. No, I had a super time, and it was really fun to do and to run. For tiring, but it left me a little bit jealous. The only game of Kings of War I really played was against Gad the week before, when he came to visit my house, and beat me. So that was the only game I played. So I've the other thing to know, if you care about things like Masters rankings and stuff like that, is that a tournament the size of Clash of Kings is like a depth charge dropped into the ocean of our Masters ranking. So if you weren't at Clash, I dropped 10 places in the Masters ranking. So I'm looking garbage right now. So I need to do some tournaments, and I had an idea for an army which I tested out badly against Gaddafi, and so I've been painting that up, which is a new Night Stalker's force. But then when I say painting up, I painted one unit. And I've got a tournament in 3 weeks I'm going to in Oxford, which is really good 32-player tournament, completely full, which is great, with loads of new players actually, which is really exciting. And I kind of said to the people in the chat for that tournament, hey, should I take like my Riftforged Orcs, which is fully painted, quite nicely painted actually, I know how to play them, or should I paint up this whole new army in 3 weeks? And they went, yeah, do the new army. So I'm doing the new army now. But I've got quite a lot of work on, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get it done or not. But yeah, painting up a Night Stalker army.
Night Stalkers, nice.
Yeah, which is I took some advice on the lists, by the way, Gad, before our game, from one quite good Kings of War player. He's quite famous for his analytical style. He's called Page Neo. No, it's Page. And his advice was garbage, so I've ignored it now because he takes a Shadow Hulk. He's like, take a Shadow Hulk because you need Slayer as well as Rampage. It's D3 Slayer and the Shadow Hulk. You remember what happened to Shadow Hulk in our game? You shot it off in turn 2. So all the shooting went into the Shadow Hulk. It died and did nothing. And then in my second game, it died and did nothing. So it's in the bin now, and I've got another Terror instead. So don't take advice from Page Neo. He's good at the game, but terrible at advice.
I'd say it's user error.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I've been any 2 games I've had since then. I've been playing against this new player who heard about Clash and wanted to play the game, and he's come from War Machine as well. But he's really bloody good at the game. He's beaten me both. He's like, I want you to crush me. Show me, like, I lost 30 games of War Machine before I won a game. So I need you to take your strongest tournament list and beat me. So he beat me both times, which is a little bit humiliating. So I'm not feeling very good at Kings of War right now, guys.
No worries. I think
I think it was part luck. I mean, the Shadowhawk is there to soak up some wounds that we have gone into other stuff. So at least he died with a purpose, I suppose. Are you talking about the War of the Roses tournament?
Yeah, it is War of the Roses. It's got some kind of funky rules in it. But yeah, it should be fun. Cool. It should be fun. Cool. Yeah, no, I've kind of my list is kind of tended towards because you need a list that you can play, right? So my list is now kind of going more towards like a grindy kind of list, which is an odd way to play Night Stalkers. But terrors are just very, very durable. They just never die. And so having a core that never dies, and I think I was just struggling to find the punch in the list, and I didn't want to paint any butchers and stuff like that. So with what I've got, I've tended towards kind of a more grind type list, and it's just really how to use the flyers better that I'm working on. So yeah, I also played my friend Matt. He beat me as well with his Northern Lions. Northern Lions are so ridiculously strong right now, aren't they? It's very hard to beat them. They've just got all the tools, and your whole army is frozen all the time. So I think a counter to that is something that doesn't die and just kind of sits there and regens all the wounds back.
Okay.
How was the game between Gad and yourself, the friendly game?
It was good.
I mean, Steve, go ahead.
I know you. It was a good game. We had fun. He beat me. His army was half painted by this point. It was 3 days before Clash of Kings. By the time we reached Clash of Kings, it was all painted. I'm like, how the hell did you have time to do this? Clearly sitting up till 2 a.m. in his little hotel room with the paintbrushes out. But he's got a lovely little halfling army. It's all kind of multi-purpose, as halflings should be. He's only sorcerers, which is kind of, I was surprised by, but he's got a lot of defense, like 6 harvesters and iron beasts, and everything else shoots. He's got like little engineers that do a lot of point shooting. But it's kind of, he plays it in a very annoying way, whereby he just kind of, he gives you no quarter. So he just stretches the whole battle line out. So you can't flank around him or anything like that. You have to take him face on. And the whole time, if you don't close with him, he's shooting you with really quite efficient shooting. So halflings normally has quite inefficient shooting, I'd say. But Gad's version of the list is quite efficient shooting. And so if you don't close on him, he'll just pick you off, as he did with my Shadowhawk. And I was a little bit slow because I was, I have some bloodworms. I'd given them. Did I have sharpness in the list at that point? Bloodworms with sharpness. I think I did.
Yeah, I think so. Which I avoided the entire game.
Yeah. I failed to get them in, which I've kind of amended now. I've taken sharpness off because it makes them too expensive. So I was kind of, some idiot laid the terrain out in an annoying way. That was me. So I couldn't get, Scarecrow's very slow, so I couldn't really close with him. So he was just kind of picking me off, and he took out some of my better units and managed the flying elements of my list. What are they called? The flying
Soul Flayers?
Yeah, them. Soul Flayers. What did I do with the dragon? Can you remember I had a Void Lurk, didn't I? What did I do with it?
Yeah, your Void Lurker fly over my lines, and he died to a harvester somehow. He charged something, and
yes, I did that right, didn't I?
Well
Got it. I jumped over you with the Void Lurk, and I got it to your back lines, but he had so many disparate elements of his list that he did some very nice play. He gave me some bad charges, essentially, and if I didn't charge with it, it would be killed. So I had to take one of the bad charges, and then Void Lurkers in the front are terrible.
Yeah.
So I didn't really. He just kind of got locked down and then obliterated. So yeah, no, Gad played very, very well. I was expecting him to be terrible because Chris Thomas beat him. No offense, Chris. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
3 times, somehow.
As he's gloriously told me many times. But Gad is in fact not terrible. He's actually an excellent player.
I heard Gad has been coaching Chris throughout all his games. That's why.
He's what? Sorry.
He's been coaching Chris throughout the games to beat him.
Oh, that is. He was coaching Chris. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
He told you how to beat him.
Which is why Page mentioned I'm the best person to give a demo. I will help you beat me. So it was his first time with Paradas, and to be fair, I think a month or 2 ago, I actually played with Page at my house. He was using Night Stalkers, and I was testing out my list. So I do have a bit of practice against them. And you're right to say my list has a lot of 3+, 4+ shooting, which stealthy hurts, but the quantity of shots and everything goes in, and I really like the Troll Gunners. I think I'm the only halfling player that took a horde of them to clash, and I think they did very well, which I'll share. Yeah, I think overall it's a fun list. One of the weaknesses of the list is speed. If people rush up to me, I don't have time to respond and shoot, and I get bogged down. But that's why I have Braves to throw in front, and just to play the role of rebel, I guess, like how Goblin players do it. And yeah, I'm enjoying the list. We have been trying a 2,000 point version of the list. So we'll see how it goes, especially after Clash with some changes. I think there'll be some changes for Night Stalkers as well. I think you will enjoy some of the changes. Hint, hint. And shout out to Chris. I think Chris from Mantic Universe podcast. Awesome to see him again. He did pretty okay at Clash. I think my coaching did pay off. So yeah, I'm glad for that.
Okay, Mo finished 25th, which is very good. Very good. Sounds patronizing. Oh, he did very well. No, that's really bloody good. There was 187 players. No, 147 players, something like that.
Yeah.
147, 48 with the ringer. So yeah, 25th is very, very good. 4-2, right? So 4 wins, 2 losses.
Yeah. I like to say I'm the second best halfling player in the field because the first halfling player won the event. I'm the second one.
Are you gonna make a better report out of that match, Steve?
It's on my channel, right? So there's a full. I haven't actually watched it, which is terrible, isn't it? There's a full streamed with more expert people than me talking about it. So there's no need for me to talk about their game. I should watch it. Really, it's quite a funny story about that game because he was playing Tom, who I think remains best player in the world, if I'm honest with you. And I went up to ask them something about a unit because John, who was doing the streaming, had a question. So I went up to ask him something, and they were just talking about cover because one of the things we did at Clash, we made cover height 0 rather than flat, which affects what gets cover. And Tom had just moved a horde of something that shot into cover, and Peter was saying to him, "No, I get cover from that." And he's like, "No, you don't." He's like, "Yeah, I do, because it's height 0. And he looked at me and went, "What have you done that for?" And so Tom had played the whole tournament without realizing cover was height 0. And then in kind of the critical final game, he blamed me for his losing because he said, "Well, if cover wasn't bloody height 0, I would have won." Is what he said to me. So I think watch the battlefield, guys. That's an important lesson here.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel about making cover like difficult terrain height 1 instead of height 0? I like the idea, but I welcome your thoughts.
I think both are playable. Height 1 difficult terrain would provide cover to things behind it. Height 0 would not.
It does. Height 0 provides cover to infantry, right? But if you make it height 1, then cavalry and height 3 will also get cover behind.
This is a rules question on live, but if I'm not wrong, Mantic, they had specifically come up with rules of height 0 terrain.
Isn't that flat terrain? I can't remember anyway. But
yeah, I mean,
they removed the term flat terrain and called it height 0 terrain instead. So, oh shucks, let me see if I can find it.
Well, let's not Google live whether I got the entire tournament's rules wrong. But we are now Googling live. Look, hey, you can tell him, look at his computer's brain. He's going, "No, I must find the answer to this.
I must find the answer.
You must find the answers. Must, take out the possibilities." But yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't really make a big difference, I guess. I mean, it does. I mean, I'm not at that level of Tom and whatnot. But I think their game was very swingy. I think Tom, if he wasn't so unlucky, he probably would have won. I think a few of our local players, we were watching the game and we were saying that the aeronauts killing a chimera, that was probably the tipping point of the game. Taking out a fresh chimera in one charge, a counter charge. So that doesn't happen very often. But that's what you get with aeronauts. It's swingy. I was testing it quite a bit, and I just found them too swingy. I can't roll force that well. And with 9 attacks, you never know what you're gonna get. You can do 15 wounds, you can do 5 wounds. So yeah, aeronauts are the swingy.
They're just very annoying to play against as well because you can't discount them.
Yeah.
Because they can't just take out a horde like that. I'm not a big fan of a rule set that ignores rules.
I don't like it too. Like there's nothing you can do, so it takes away interaction.
Yeah. Not a fan. But
but it is what it is. So yeah, Gad, let's talk about yourself. What's are you up to hobby wise now that you have completed your halflings? Because you have went to UK with your halflings mostly not done. And the last time you had a complete army was with dwarves and you brought it to UK Clash of Kings 2019. And Gad has hobby ADD, so he has a lot of armies but half painted.
Yeah. So
So I was very, very skeptical whether he could bring Halflings to UK Clash of Kings.
Yeah, he kept
Especially
asking
when
me.
it's nearing, and I was like, how much progress have you done on painting those Braves? So
Yeah,
so I'm quite
I mean,
surprised that you managed to do it, but most of it was done in UK. So
yeah. So I can share a bit about how it was done. I had the privilege of staying with John Gans from the Moonrakers. He's the chief Moonraker. He even has a flag in his garden, which is insane. And yeah, most of the time, John's a older gentleman. He goes to bed a bit early. I don't, so that gave me a couple hours every night to do some painting. And he has a very lovely observatory and is facing his garden. It's beautiful. There's natural sunlight. It's cooling, and yeah, just sat there and paint. I brought all my paints to UK, so it was definitely a race against time. Painting something like 100 infantry models is not great, but I think I really put it on dioramas to make it more fun and interesting. I have one where they're inspired by gangs of New York. They're all wearing top hats. I have another one where they are in the kitchen. I have another one where they're all girls, because it's cool to fight against girls, I guess. So that was fun. Getting the army painted. I'm still painting more halflings. I'm painting the wild runners and wild lancers or juggers. So those next on my painting queue. But I got tired of painting halflings after Clash. So I've been painting some Trident realms. You can see I have a Kika here,
there
half
we go.
painted.
That's the ADD
Yeah,
coming in.
yeah. I have some Gigas that I'm painting, and I recently bought a lot of speed paints. So I actually sold all my contrast paints away to some guy, and I'm just fully on speed paints because I just hit the damn pots for GW. I spilled like 2 bottles already. So with the speed paints, they're so easy and so fun, and I just like them. It makes painting easier for me. I'm not a great painter. I'm just wants to get paint on models, which I have too many of. So yeah, Trident is next. I'm excited to see what's coming up for Trident next year. That'll be the first army to be refreshed in the first quarter of next year, apparently. So there's going to be new plastics for River Guard and for Dam Busters. In case viewers may not know, I'm excited for that. I think Trident is pretty.
That's not
It's
under
a
NDA,
fun.
right? That was revealed at Clash.
Yeah, that was
Right.
revealed at Clash, and that was revealed I think earlier on in the year. So yeah, that's something fun to, because Trident is another interesting army, counter punch army that I like to play, and it's yeah. I think I've been playing it quite a bit. Even I think in our last league 2 years ago, Page, I was playing.
Mhm.
I actually have a horde of ensnarers. They were 9 ensnarers. They were supposed to come from the sea, but I actually did the diorama wrongly. So they are actually going back to the sea instead of coming out from the sea.
Running away. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you make a horde, right? So usually you put some basing things where it doesn't get in the way. So God decided to put the sandbank behind the nine heads. So it looks like they're running back to the sea, and it won best diorama because everyone said they were running back to the sea.
yeah. So yeah, Trident is definitely an army that I enjoy. I also have some salamanders, and definitely Twilight Kin are very tempting. I mean, a couple of the local players are excited for Twilight Kin. I think it drops today, the update to the companion. So that's something very interesting. That's definitely brought some interest back to the game, because there were quite a few Twilight Kin players waiting for the release. So I think that's good. It's been interesting to see the rules. I think me and Paige, we actually did some play testing. It was quite funky rules. So we're interested to see the final version of the rules, and yeah. And just want to shout out to once again to Moonrakers, John, Andy, and Paul, and
How did you
also
join the Moonrakers? How did it come to be?
Leo. Okay, let me see. So basically, I met John and Andy and also Leo in 2019.
Mhm.
So John actually sells betties where you can hang at the side of the table. You can put your dice and your rule book and all your other gaming stuff. So actually bought two from him. Yeah, so that is when the our got first got to know him. And earlier this year, I went to Beachhead. So he and Andy were at Beachhead. So we hung up over there, along with your good friend Ed Herzik was also there.
Mhm.
Then then I told them I was coming to Clash, and John asked me if I could be a moonfaker, and I gladly said okay. So yeah, it was very nice. They got me a vest. John's wife is an awesome seamstress. She actually sold me a bag as well. Actually have it here. Also gave me gifts where I can pass to other people. This is the bag that says Moonfaker General Gaddafi. And the ironic thing is, I didn't realize it. The Singapore flag also has a crescent, which is the logo of the Moonrakers. And there's 5 stars, so there are originally 4 Moonrakers plus me, so that's 5, I guess. So it's quite fitting how I ended up being a Moonraker. It's quite fun, and obviously when I was there, he brought me to the museums and visit the local sites and just find out a bit more about the origin of the story and all that. So yeah, I feel very much a moon. It says Moonfaker, but I feel like a Moonraker lah. At this point in time, they have been lovely
Destined.
people. Yeah, it's destiny.
Anyway,
Yep.
for myself, I've been doing up my goblins and I'm almost done. So what I have left is
So many goblins.
Winged, 1 mop-up launcher, and 90 goblins. That's basically what I have left to do.
I love how you started that kind of like, I've got 1 Winged, 90 goblins. Like,
yeah.
Just dip them. That's what you're gonna do.
So let's get into Clash proper. So Steve, who else is on the committee?
Oh, so the committee is a group of TOs who very kindly give their time. So we've got Jan, who is one of the golden trolls, and with Jan you always get Bob. So Bob's like a secret, surreptitious member of the committee, because when you get Jan, you get Bob. It's secretly my reason for inviting her. And we've got my friend Matt G, who is TO from down south, and Cy Brand, who is a TO from our kind of Oxfordshire area. We started with Nick Williams, but Nick kind of stepped back from a lot of Kings of War stuff. So he's stepped back from committee duties, though he's still very kindly lent us his terrain. And in fact, he'd already booked his hotel and stuff, so he was there for the whole weekend and helped out an enormous amount on the actual tournament. And then we have John Fawkes as well, who's kind of formally joined us as a formal streaming correspondent person. And we also had Elliot Barrett helped out as well, because we were using him as a companion. So he helped out during the day, but the committee is kind of the 4/5 of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you delegate the duties?
Yeah, it's very collaborative, really. I mean, I'm obsessive and quite controlling, so I kind of try to set the direction, but we have we run it quite cool. We have like committee meetings and agendas and minutes, and we boiled down last year. Kind of we sat down and said, okay, what would make the best tournament that we would want to go to? What would make it the best tournament we would want to attend? And we kind of attacked it from that approach, really. As you would any normal tournament, if you ever run tournaments, you think about things like number of games, number of points, scenarios, terrain, and then we thought about, okay, a lot of the more complex stuff is like, how do you feed 150 people in a lunchtime? And how long does that lunchtime need to be? And where is the venue going to be? So finding the venue was one of the hardest things. And once we had that, we were really happy. And then, so it's really just people bring their own skills and contribute equally. So, as an example, Cy has a copy of Adobe products and does a tournament pack and stuff like that. People bring to the committee a different range of skills and abilities. Jan and Bob actually helped out a lot on the day. Matt is a huge organizational figure, but he's very, very good at organizing. He did a lot of the go live stuff. So yeah, everyone brings different skills, and I kind of chip in and try to offer direction where I can. So yeah, it's quite a collaborative approach. Works really well. We're really happy.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
The most impressive video I've seen is the drone flyby of the venue, and it's really, really cool. I must say the venue is really great.
One of the players does drone photography, and he kind of hit up John. I can't remember, but he hit and said, "Look, I'd like. Do you want me to do some drone photography. We went, yeah, all right, fair enough. It's very cool. He's got these kind of VR goggles that he puts on, and he kind of sees through the drone while he's flying it around. He came with his son, Brendan, and yeah, they took some great pictures. So before the venue opened, and then he also did it in the social event on the Saturday, which was quite funny. And then during the beginning of game 2, obviously he was playing, so he couldn't do it all the time because he went off to play the games. But yeah, brilliant! What a nice surprise.
Yeah, and so how did you feed all the people during lunchtime? Were there a lot of eateries nearby?
So yeah, it's in the centre of Nottingham. So there is the venue has its own kitchen. One of the problems we had is that they said, look, we can't feed. At that point, it was 100 people. We're talking about 100 people in an hour. It's not going to happen. So he said, all right. So we changed the times of the event. We extended the lunchtime, made it longer, which is good, really, because it gave people time to, and they could also go out then and go to, there's a supermarket around the corner or food places around the corner they could go to as well. But it worked out very well, and everyone got their food in good time. The slight downside was that some people didn't check the pack. I mean, I did email everyone who was coming to the tournament to tell them the times had changed. But there was one group of players who were getting a ferry because they were from abroad, and their ferry time couldn't be changed. So they actually missed the last game. So I felt extremely bad for that, but they were very nice about it. And the time is unlikely to change for next year. So it's just the first time we were running it, really.
Right. Were there any challenges before or during the event?
Well, the fact that it's probably nothing to you guys because you're quite familiar with it. It was 30 degrees that weekend, which is for England, it might as well have been, 100 degrees centigrade, 30 degrees centigrade for the Americans watching. What is that in Fahrenheit? I don't know. 30 degrees in Fahrenheit, 86. Okay, so, a balmy spring day for Texas, but for England, that's like the roastingest hot day ever. England isn't very set up for hot weather. And English people are not very set up for hot weather. So we had, 150 people in a sports hall. And then we got there and they said, oh, yeah, no, the air conditioning's not working. And we went, what? They went, yeah, no, it doesn't work in the sports hall. No, it'll be all right. We'll get, we might need some fans, but it should be fine. It's nice and cool inside. And I went, so we hurriedly hired some large fans to kind of get some airflow going in the hall. So it was warm, I would say, for game 1. And then I can't remember, was it game 2? Or I can't remember, there was a fire alarm anyway. So they were testing the fire alarms. Because we're in a university building, and the way it's timed is that so we can get staff in there, it's the week before term starts, right? The autumn term. At the end of their summer holidays. So there was a lot of building work happening, and they were testing the fire alarms anyway. They set the fire alarms off and everyone had to evacuate. And then mysteriously, they went, oh, I guess we should turn the air conditioning on. And I went, what? The air conditioning you told me didn't work. And they went, yeah. And they turned it on, and it was suddenly much cooler in the hall. And I was like, thanks, guys, legends.
They just cheated
so
you.
Once they found, yeah, exactly. Once they found the button that turned the aircon on, it was a lot more palatable. But heat was an issue. We've budgeted for hiring air conditioning for next year just in case. But that was really, and then we had Mountain Companion is still beta, right? So it worked very well. We actually had a backup spreadsheet as well. So poor Jan and Bob sat there typing scoring sheets into a spreadsheet just in case it fell over. It didn't fall over, but it didn't at the offset include table randomization. So I've been harping on at Elliot to get table randomization into it, because my point of view was that what if one part of the gaming hall is more comfortable to be in than the other, because I'm obviously psychic, and it doesn't seem fair that just because you're good at the game you get to be in a nice bit, and if you're rubbish you get to be in a really hot bit. And so he'd had an enormous amount to do prior to the tournament, but he eventually got round to putting table randomization in, but we hadn't foreseen that it would mess up the live view. So table randomization worked, but then it messed up the live view. So we had a small hiccup with scoring that added about 10-15 minutes to us. And then the fire alarm added another 20 minutes to us. And so we ended up just with running. We budgeted for data entry, but not quite enough time. So Elliot doing data entry on his own didn't really work. So we ended up an hour late on the day 1, which is not ideal. I didn't like that. And people didn't mind so much, but it means we got upstairs to the upstairs bar a bit late, and for Ronnie's State of the Nation speech. But so by the time we got to day 2, it all fixed it. We had 2 people doing data entry. Mountain Companion worked brilliantly, and everything went very smoothly on day 2. So we fixed the problems that we had, and that's pretty much the only problems. Yeah.
Well, I think considerably those are quite small issues, even if it's an hour late, because it's quite a logistical exercise hosting 150 players. And yeah, I think more than 150 signed up, a few dropped off at the end. So what do you think contributed to the huge sign up this year?
I think it was just because it was in Nottingham, if I'm honest with you. Putting it in the right place is important for people. So previously it kind of toured the country. We brought it back to Nottingham. Nottingham was a huge draw for people because GW is there, Mantic is there. There's various other companies you can visit. It's a good place to travel to, although there was a train strike on Saturday, which is helpful. Go England strikes. So just being in the right place, the right time. We'd come out of COVID, so people were happy again to travel, although everyone did in fact catch COVID at the event because that's just a thing now. So Game of Flu is back, but now we just call it COVID. I think we did some good promotion on it. It was just the right time at the right place. Kings of War is in a very good place right now in terms of people finding the game, I think. So we've seen a massive increase in the number of players playing. So it's a good time, I think, before the old world comes and knocks our knees out from underneath us. I think this is really the heyday for Kings of War. So the next couple of years should be really exciting.
Yeah, and there are quite a lot of overseas players, right? Or rather out of country.
Yeah, there was like 25% UK. You had people from Scotland, people from Ireland, and then we had people from all over the world: Netherlands, Spain, France, Austria, Norway,
Poland, we had Germany, Switzerland, France. Yeah, everywhere.
And Gad
even
is not
some
the
weirdo from Singapore.
Gad is not the most furthest traveled player coming from Singapore.
We didn't have an award for it, which we should have done really. I ran out of awards budget. So Gad came over because he's amazing. He's been here before. It was sad that you couldn't come, Page, but hopefully next year, fingers crossed for you, buddy, that your babies have grown up enough. It would be great to see you. But yeah, we had a guy called Walt who came over from Australia. He emailed me to say, I'm coming to Nottingham, trip of a lifetime kind of thing. Just fancy just coming. Can I come and watch? I've never played Kings of War, so I just like to watch the tournament. And I was like, no, man, come and play. Why don't you play? And he's like, I haven't got an army. So we'll lend you an army. So Bob lent him his ogres. And he came and he played. He played 6 of his first 6 games of Kings of War. He had a great time. Lovely man. Yeah. And then it was weird. We were just hanging around. And these people sometimes people just walk into the gaming hall because it's just off the street. And we have to kind of stop them and say, so excuse me, can I just know, we were here to see the event. And I'm like, are you, in an Australian accent? I'm like, are you? Like, yeah, we're on holiday. And we know about Kings of War, so we just come to have a look. And very weirdly, there was another Australian couple who just happened to be in Nottingham who just wandered in to have a look at the event. And then they spent about an hour talking to Walt over one lunchtime. So, and I said to the lady, I think your husband's found Walt, who's from Australia. Oh, he'll be there for a while. And they did. They shunted away together, these 2 lovely fellas.
Nottingham, holiday destination of Australians.
Yeah, come to class.
It's no longer Bali anymore. So let's look at the faction turnout. You did mention, Steve, that Clash of Kings, you said it's not a super serious event. I guess what you're trying to say is, there are good players still turning up to the event. Some of the best players do, especially from UK, did turn up for the events. But there are a lot of other players who just want to attend the event to play, right? They're not necessarily world-class players, but they just want to come and enjoy the event.
Yeah, I suppose it's very serious for some people. People do take it very seriously, and they do bring absolutely rock hard lists. I think because it's such a large event, what you have is a higher than normal percentage of very casual players. So players who play for fun. It might be the only tournament they go to, maybe in the year, or one of the few tournaments they go to in the year, because they're not really a competitive player. What they want to come is experience, a really big wargaming event and all the fun that goes with it. So there was a very, very high number of quite casual players who were really there just to have fun, and did have a lot of fun, as well as the kind of super competitive guys. So as you go down the table, you will find the less competitive players normally about position 25. Am I right, Gad?
It starts from position 25.
Yeah, typically, I would say maybe 50. The top 50 players are maybe a bit more competitive. Maybe the top third.
I mean, look. Well, having said that, that I said people were littered down the list. If I get down to, Ed Herzig finished 61. He's a superb player. Nick Davis 64. Elliot Morris was 67. So it comes down to matchups, doesn't it? Really, but
matchups.
There was a big mix. People do get more casually go down the list, but it's really nice to have that mix. To be honest, there's more casual players as well as more competitive players, and generally by about game 3, people are being matched against people that are appropriate for them and start to really enjoy the games. Enjoy the games at the top.
I like to say Gad did submarine his way to 25th.
All
of us in Singapore were like staying up to watch his report of the games, like watching soccer results, and he was like, what was your day 1 record? Loss, win, loss? Was that how it turned out?
It was so.
So at the end of day 1, we were like, oh man, two losses and 1 win. So like our hopes weren't very high, admittedly, but he came up with 3 wins in day 2, ending in 25th. It's like, that's the way, put our flag on the map.
Yeah.
You had a tough matchup for your first. I mean, you can go through I've got to go quite soon, unfortunately, but you had a reasonably tough matchup for your first game. Then you played one of the nicest players at the tournament in game 2, Heather.
Heather was fantastic.
But you clearly did too well because then you played Nick Davis, who's a really, really good player.
Game 3. I should have won the game. He was in disbelief. He's super cool. He plays the perfect army trident. He's like he's like a surfer dude, UK style, and he plays the trident. Beautiful army, and yeah.
He's a tree surgeon. True story.
What? Wow.
He is such a cool. He's a Welsh guy. He's very cool. He's like the coolest guy you want to be. He paints. He had a crack at being a pro painter for it. A Twitch channel and everything. His army is spectacularly pretty. He's just a very nice guy.
Amazing guy.
But then, not to say, I don't think you could take away from from Gad's achievement, because all 3 of his games on day 2, you can go through in a bit, were against very good players, and and he smashed it. So all kudos to him for doing so well.
Yeah, and Gad and I recently had a game, and I lost that game. My goblins was totally obliterated by the halflings.
What?
Yeah. So back to the drawing board. I'm tweaking my lists.
The
secret tag is the poachers. The poachers in the formation, they are amazing, and it's been something that I mentioned to Gad, and we have tested it in Singapore before he went over. And I think that was one of your MVPs in the games, right?
Yes.
The poachers.
Yeah, poachers and Ellie McSween, man. The things people do to kill Ellie McSween, I was laughing internally throughout the entire tournament. It was insane.
Right. Yeah, Ellie has a stealthy and spell ward, right, on top of being an individual.
Yeah, and still people shoot her or charge her with hordes of forest shamblers. It's hilarious.
Right. Okay, back to the faction breakdowns. So I'm going this in order of most taken to least taken. I'll just whiz through very quickly. I'm aware that Steve has to leave very soon, so just drop a message in the chat if you really need to go off soon, but I'll try to wrap it up in the next few minutes. So the most taken army is Ogres with 13 players. Second and third tied is Night Stalkers and Northern Alliance, and I think most of them are the 2023 version. Okay, number 4 and 5th tied is Halflings and Salamanders. 10 players took them each. And then next we have Dwarves and Goblins at 9, Undead at 7. 6 players took Abyssal Dwarves, Trident Realms, and Thessalians. 5 players took Riftforged Orcs, Elves, Empire of Dust. Oh, I think I have a typo here, or rather mis-sorting. There's also 6 players taking Forces of Nature, 5 players taking Forces of the Abyss, 4 with Redkin, 3 with Free Dwarfs, 3 with Redkin Slaves, 3 Rodier, 2 Brothermark, 2 Green Lady, 2 Sylvankin, 1 Kingdoms of Men, 1 Orc, and 1 Varangur. And the only army not taken is Herd. Am I right, Steve?
Yeah, we did have a Herd player, but he dropped out very sadly. And his place was taken by the Kingdoms of Men player.
Right.
So some brief things to say before I go about the distribution. One is that it's not surprising that the newer armies were popular. because we are, we actively promoted people bringing an All-Mantic army, and we rewarded people who bought an All-Mantic army. They got a special figurine and a voucher hand-delivered by Ronnie Renton himself around the tables in tournaments. So, people were explicitly bribed to bring All-Mantic armies, and will continue to do so because we want to support them. So that was really good. I think, and the newer, more powerful armies who've got newer, more powerful rules coming at the top is not really surprising. And ogres have always been a perennial favorite anyway, because they are easier to paint up, they're good new models, and they're very strong rules, right? Having said that, there's 2 ogre players in the top 20, both of whom are Spanish. And I bought kind of very similar kind of meta type lists. And Javier, was a hair's breadth from winning for the second time. He's just an exceptionally good player. He's coming to Adepticon this year, which is I'm excited to see. He's a lovely guy. He's kind of Gad sized. He's just enormously tall, and just a really, really, really lovely guy. So I hope he's treated very nicely in Adepticon. We know Halflings won, but if you look at the actual meta of this that came top, it's a really nice balance. I think Northern Alliance is just exceptionally strong. You will see a lot of Northern Alliance armies in that top kind of 40. There's 3 in the top 20.
Yeah, in terms of top 20, I did take a count. 3 Northern Alliance, 3 Basileans, 2 Ogres, 2 Redkin, 2 Trident, 1 Halfling, 1 Salamanders, Forces of Nature, Elves, Sylvan-Kin, Goblin, Grenadier, Varangur in the top 20.
It's worth saying, Salamanders obviously people bought because it's a magic army and it's got some cool new models. But everyone bought Corsairs. There were so many. They all had like 4 units of Corsairs, which is extraordinary, really, because they're not that good. But people love them. To be fair though, Steve did very well. He didn't bring the Corsairs. He's the only one who didn't. He also didn't have lots of Scorchwings. He had 1 unit of Scorchwings, 2 Phoenixes, Kawas, the flying hero, who's very, very good. Oh, he's not flying, is he?
Pale Rider.
Yeah, Pale Rider, that's it. And the Whispering Scales formation. So nice balanced list, and that's really what we saw. Is that John Quayle's Basileans aside, which is an absolute flying nightmare list. And it's worth saying, John Quayle's second for like the 100th time. He's been UK Master second twice as well. He's always second place, bless him. Apart from that list aside, you just see a very balanced set of lists, right? Very powerful infantry with some fast units and a lot of shooting support, and that's position 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are those type of lists. So what's the meta for Kings of War? Fast lists with shooting and solid infantry. It's not rocket science, is it? Just learn to play a good balanced list and you'll do well. And I'm ignoring James Mitchell's elves because that's just a nightmare to play against. It's the worst elf list ever, and he plays it like a surgeon. It's awful to play against. And Jorge Cueva with his Sylvan-Kin at position 10, he was a very similar style of list. All the air elementals, all the clade storm. It's just awful. But yeah, balanced list is the way to go. And you can talk about the Goblin list at number 12 because it's basically your list anyway. The same kind of evil mind dwells within Mario as dwells within yourself, Page, and take all the filth. Bless him. Yeah, he had a great game, a great tournament as well. And it's good to see Ratkin up there as well. Arthur, who's a superb player, told me to play.
And so many halflings. Why was there so many halflings? Because there weren't a lot of halflings showing up in tournaments before Clash, and was it like everyone just happened to have their halflings painted by then?
Yeah, I think it took that long to paint them, right? A lot of little infantry figures. People are still getting to grips with them, I think, and it's a tricky list to play right, isn't it? Tricksy little halflings. But once you got it, they're very strong, very powerful list. It's got all the tools you want. I think there's somewhere, you come up against halflings and you're like, what does that do? What does that do? What does that do? That can help people as well, but it's taking people time to get used to, I guess. And it'll be the same with Twilightkin, I think, as well. Would take about 6 months. Although I think with that one, people are so excited, we'll see lists pretty soon. I've got to go, guys. It's been really fun. I'm so sorry.
Right, just one last thing to ask: Are you running Clash next year?
And when is it?
Yeah. We'll announce the date really soon. I've got a call with the venue in a couple of days.
The same venue?
That's solidified. Yeah, same venue. We're sticking with the same venue. So it'll be back in Nottingham about the same time of year, probably maybe a week later because it's a term time is a week later in the UK next year. But as soon as I get all the details certified, I will start shouting about it as I do. And,
Sure. And in case you didn't know, we are having a Clash of Kings Southeast Asia in January
Asia
2024.
to be exact.
Asia, so we're cancelling out the Southeast because we're the only part of Asia that matters anyway. So Clash of Kings Asia.
And Russians come.
January 2024. Never mind the big country that starts with C, but the only part of Asia that matters right now in terms
get
of
all
Kings
China
of War.
in. Good. Yeah. That'll be fun. Well, good luck, guys. I hope it goes well.
Right.
Thanks.
Awesome. So I'll see you again, Steve. I know you have to duck out.
See you,
Apologies,
Steve.
I have a job to go to.
Bye.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks for logging in early.
Bye.
All right. So Gad, let's continue on. Yeah, let's have you just briefly recap your 6 games. But before that, why not you go through your list, which we kind of workshop back and forth quite a bit. And of course, we do agree on some elements of your list. And I did not agree with other elements of the list, but it did turn out well. So let's talk about your list that you brought to Clash as the second best halfling player. Revel in that title.
So basically the core of the list is the 3 hordes of braves. So basically they are like the rebel for halflings. They're just meant to die. Then I have 2 regiments of EG grenadiers to provide some support and some basically to just spread the battlefield a bit. That's part of my plan to actually spread the opponent out. I don't want them to focus on one area of the board and break through. So usually I'll deploy the EJ Grenadiers on the flanks. And I have one controversial pick, the Forest Row Gunners, which were pretty amazing for me throughout the entire tournament. I don't think they died the entire tournament, which was cool. I mean, I realized one of the tricks to using them is basically throwing Braves in front of them. People have to kill Braves, but they can shoot over Braves because they are taller than the Braves.
But they will suffer cover penalties, right?
Yeah, but with 18 shots, I think just the weight of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or if they're shooting at stuff like Titans and stuff. So I shot down Steve's Shadow Harp. I shot down a Giant. I shot down a Coral Giant. It was a trend during the tournament, the shooting down stuff. And then I have the Defense 6 stuff, which is the Harvesters and the 2 Iron Beasts. One is the Pride of the Shires. And I have the rest of
2
the
Harvesters,
unit.
right? 2 Harvesters and 2 Iron Beasts.
2 Harvesters and 2 Iron Beasts. So I tend to run them in tandem. So if you charge one, you're probably going to get counter-charged by the other. So it's Defense 6 is always an issue for people to deal with. Then I have the support elements of the list. I have 2 engineers, one with the Radiance of Life, and both have the Aura Wild Charge, which was quite good. I have to credit Andy. The Moonrakers one of the Moonrakers actually suggested that because that gives me a bit of more threat in tandem with the Sorcerer. Then the Sorcerer also has the Boomstick. So Sorcerer and the Engineer all shoot, so they can pick up targets, and plus the formation, the 2 Poachers and Ellie Musween, which was the most important individual I think I had. She was so key in most of the games.
You're crediting Andy for the engineer suggestion or the gadgets and these?
The engineers taking wild charge for both of them.
Taking wild charge?
Yeah, the wild charge aura on the engineers.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
for
they
Tinker?
have wild charge. Yeah, for Tinker only. So that affects the Iron Beasts and Harvesters. And also 1 unit of Braves that get the Tinker keyword. Yeah, so that gives me a maximum charge of 14. Which really, people tend to stay away from 14 for some reason. They are afraid of me charging them. Where in most cases I won't charge them. It's just a threat of the charge. So that's how I use the Sorcerer. So yeah, so that's my list. Let's do a very quick run through of my games. So my first game was against Andrew. He was one of the guys from the Netherlands. Super beautiful army. He had LEDs all over. I actually have a recap on the Kings of War forums if you want to have a more detailed
KOW forum, right?
Yeah, the KOW forum, and also on Facebook in the Halfling group. So basically, he had a very shooty list: 4 Heart Piercers, 1 Scorchwing Horde, Fire Elementals, and 3 Fire Elementals, 1 greater elemental, 2 4 Shaman Horde. So what he did, he castled out in the corner. He won the roll. He castled out in one corner where the terrain was better for him because he was afraid of my shooting outranging him. My shooting's 24, his shooting's 18. He put his greater fire elementals in front just to block to be the first line, so he sent them in front. We did a lot of exchange. So this was the first game. I spent probably a bit too long in deployment, and I lost because I timed out. He had the last row of the game where he actually picked up the loot counter, killing my Iron Beast with like 5 seconds to go. So that was quite unfortunate. It was a very good back and forth game. He was very cautious. This was a game where Ali McSween went up, charged a regiment of hard piercers, wavered them. He actually 360'd his 4 Shambler and charged Ellie. Didn't kill her. She went to charge another hard piercer regiment, wavered them again. They didn't die. As you know, they have regeneration. And he actually spent a lot of time trying to kill Ellie. So he surged his 4 Shamblers into Ellie again, finally killing her, but I probably tied up like 400-500 points just with her. So she was great in the game. But I just ran out of time. I couldn't finish my charges, and yeah, that was probably the game.
You timed out at which turn?
My turn 6. And my turn 5. I only had like 2 or 3 minutes for my turn 6, so I couldn't do all my stuff.
So you played halfway through turn 6, right?
Yeah, halfway turn 6. Then I lost, so unfortunate. But yeah, it should have been an easier. I should have won the game. So that was the trend for the day 1 timing out. So the game 2 was with Heather. She's super cool. I think she's a more casual player. She has a very beautifully painted ogre army. She does pirate team armies. So basically her army had 2 siege breakers, 2 warriors, 1 chariot, 2 warlocks, 1 giant, something like that, and a few goblin scouts. So it was a bit unfortunate for her. She had her goblin scouts in front of her ogres, siege breakers, and warriors. So basically, I wavered them, and in combat, so they were stuck. Her ogres were stuck while I just shot her slowly but surely. EJs also flew around her. She didn't really have a lot of tools to deal with the shooting and also with the flying. I did give her a lot of tips, saying that she's a newer player. We didn't even use the clock, but it was a very fun game. She had pretty bad dice, to the point where Steve actually had to come and give her dice, cash dice, to use, which were better. Like she had a regiment charging a Braves horde, and she only had 4 hits. There were 10 ones, so that was quite historically bad dice. So, but it was quite fun. In the end, I won the game, but her berserker bully took out my Iron Beast somehow. So that was quite heroic because I wrote the double one, and the berserker bully killed my Iron Beast, which was quite fun. Then the game 3 was against Nick Davies' Trident Realm. He had 2 Hordes of Depth Horrors, 2 Coral Giants, the 2 formation Ecodems, a few Tidal Swarms, and Depth Horror Eternal, and 2 Mythical Heroes, 1 in the formation. So that game was another game I should have won. I was shooting him. I held up most of his army by throwing Braves in front, just shooting past the Braves. Even though they had stealthy, or they had the umbrella, what's the
Veil of Shadows?
Veil of Shadows. I managed to shoot off his waver his Coral Giant 2 turns in a row, which he was so upset about, because 4-stroke gunners behind Braves shooting at Coral Giant, that there's no penalty. And with engineers and
do Coral Giants have regen?
No, they have Iron Resolve.
Iron Resolve, right.
Yeah, but if you're waver, you don't get Iron Resolve. But
yeah,
I mean 16-18 nerf is high, but it's not that high. With a lot of pling shooting, once you do 5 or 6 damage, 7 8 damage, then you have a chance of wavering it quite easily. But at the end of the game, I ran out of time again. He got the last token. He managed to kill Iron Beast with a token with his Depth Horrors on 8 damage. Then I ran out of time for turn 6. I had lots of shooting. I would probably have taken out the Depth Horror hot, and I would have won the game. It was a game where he was saying that he was like, I can't believe I won the game, you know. So, but he was super great, super nice guy. I think it was just a bad matchup for him. I had a lot of
So
shooting
halfway through
against
turn 6, you timed
yeah,
out. Right. Same.
yeah. And there was probably a turn 7. It might be a happy bit in turn 7. So
Mm.
yeah, so the Death Hours had 3 tokens on it, and I couldn't take it out.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, super nice guy, but at least, you know, I submarine, you know, for day 2. I mean, the expectations were not, there were no expectations anyway, anymore, since I lost 2 games. You know, if I had won 2 games or I won 3 games, you know, I would have been like, okay, game 4 is going to be important. You know, I need to win game 4, but unfortunately, no. So the second day, first day was fun. First day we had a social. Ronnie teased some stuff. I think it's all out there now, like the Trident Realms and the Forces of Peace and the Mystery Faction, which we still don't know. Even if with our NDA, we still don't know. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm guessing it's Herd or Seven King or even Order of the Green Lady. So it's an army that what he mentioned was it's an army that Mantic doesn't make plastic kits for at the moment. So with that, you could eliminate some armies. So we'll find out soon enough. I think during Christmas time, they will announce it so that people don't spend the next year building the army until they come out with the refresh. So game 4 was against Lucas. Lukasz, he's Polish, he's from Poland. He had one of the 4 Corsair lists that Steve was mentioning about. So he had 4 Corsairs, Firebrand, 2 hordes of rhinos, 3 rhino captains, and 1 ancient regiment. So this was a very cagey game. He had shooting, I had shooting, but my shooting was longer range. Again, I set Ellie. So Ellie was in terrain, stealthy individual. He still shot Ellie with his Corsairs. I don't know why. He didn't do much to Ellie. So Ellie did her job well.
Hit on
Once
7s, right? 4 becomes 7. Individual, stealthy, and terrain.
Yeah, she's on 7, which is insane. So he had Arkel. Arkel was surprisingly, Arkel was quite. I mean, he was afraid of me shooting Arkel, I guess. So he held Arkel
Oh, that's the
quite back.
character. That's
Yeah.
the character Gecko, right?
Yeah, the
Artaco, I
Gecko
think.
character.
I think it's called Artaco.
Artaco, yeah. Yeah. So he ended up killing Ellie, but you know, by killing Ellie and shooting Ellie and charging her, they kept her out of the game. So he had 1 Rhino Horde on one flank, another Rhino Horde on one flank. I managed to win one of the flanks. This was the new scenario, Hold the Line, which is a very interesting scenario. Look for it coming out soon. Hint, hint. Hold the Line. So basically, it's 3 zones, 2 and 2 for the left and right, and 1 in the middle 3. So you can win by holding the left and right zone and losing the center zone, which is quite interesting. Which was what I did. I actually won the left and right zone. So the right zone, somehow my Braves killed a Rhino captain on the charge. I mean, he gave me the charge anyway, but it was quite lucky.
Was it really captain? Just a captain, right?
Yeah, Rhino captain, which is not inconceivable. I mean, I did roll well. Then I won that flank quite decisively. On the left flank, I had a lot of shooting. So my throw gunners and my poachers shot off a lot of stuff. His Rhino Hawk only charged in turn 6. He charged the Iron Beast, failed. I charged his Rhino Hawk with poachers and throw gunners and Iron Beast. He would have won if he counter charged my poachers, because my poachers were unit strength 3. So if he killed the unit strength 3 instead of going for the unit strength 1 Iron Beast, he would have won. But he didn't, because I think he was running out of time as well. So he charged Iron Beast, didn't kill the Iron Beast even. It wouldn't have mattered, and I won the game because of that. That was his mistake at the end, where the unit strength, people like to kill the Iron Beast for some reason. There was a trend. A lot of the games, people try to kill the Iron Beast, which I was more than happy for them to kill my Iron Beast because it's unit strength 1. So this was game 4. Game 5 was against Richard Tomlinson. I think he's a Masters level, UK Masters player. It was plunder. He got first turn, so he put me on the back foot quite a bit. He rushed up. He picked up a token chariot regiment. He had the usual siege breakers in the middle with another chariot regiment, and he had a giant, and also he had Cousteau and Madfall on one flank with a Red Goblin Scout. So that flank I won because my poachers charged Custo and Madfall from the hill, and together with EJ Grenadiers. So
That
I
should take
spiked
it
the
up.
roll. The EJs were hindered. So but
Right.
the EJs managed to do 1 wound and rolled 3 for brutal.
Right.
Then poachers did like 5 wounds. So it was close, but I managed to take out Custo. Because Custo, if you don't kill him, he's gonna regen. He's gonna tie me up for a long time. And yeah, it's quite strong in combat. So I managed to win that flank. Then the center was a lot of shooting. I just threw Brace forward as usual. Try to hold him up in the center while I try to get the tokens on the side. Then what happened was I was also timing out this game. He was also close to timing out this game. He had a charge on my EJs, which had the 1 token. I mean, by this time I already timed out. It was turn 6. I already timed out. So it was his turn 7. If it ended at turn 6, I would have won. But it went to turn 7. So turn 7, he also had like a 1 minute or so. So with his last rolls of the game, he charged my EJs, which had 2 damage on them, with a giant. Giant and Slayer. So he rolls 2d6 plus 8. He rolled 2. He rolled double 1.
Right.
So he had 10 attacks on the EJs. He hit like with 4. He did like 3 damage. He rolled a 6. EJs are fine. He lost the game.
Right.
Yeah. So, and on the other hand, I was trying to shoot off his Red Goblin Scouts with the token with the 2 value. But I just couldn't kill the EJs. My engineers were running up and trying to snipe the EJs at the edge of the table. No, not the EJs, the Red Goblin Scouts.
Right.
Which was quite frustrating. So yeah, it was a very cagey game. He was sweating back and forth, but it was a close game. Yeah, maybe it should not have lost. But I spent a lot of time deploying. I take it. I think for the way I play, I need to have really nice charging and firing lanes because the units all had to support each other. So where to deploy the unit was quite important, and I used a lot of the terrain for cover and also to protect my flank. So I probably spent like 7-8 minutes for deployment, which is a bit too long if you have a 60-minute clock for a 2.3k game. So the last game, I played Andy Smith in a very, very beautiful Astalia team Rhodia army. I'm quite familiar with Rhodia. One of our local players, James, used to play a lot of Rhodia. So he had a list with 2 Honor Guard, 3 volley guns, Battle Shrine. He had 1 horde of pikes, I believe, 2 regiments of foot guard, a few wizards of Pegasus, and 1 flying duke dude. Yeah, flying dude. So that game was dominant. He chose a side with more terrain, which was interesting. So he put his volley guns in terrain. His plan was to shoot me off, but I had pretty good shooting on my own. So I focused fire. I took out his pike horde on turn 2. Early throwing knives, throw gunners, poachers. Then I just started to pick up his army. He was a bit too conservative. If he had rushed to me, I wouldn't have time to shoot him down, and his honor guard would have gotten in combat. So I don't really have anything that can take out honor guard. So his honor guard only came to combat like turn 5 or 6, which was a bit too late. So this is a trend I saw. Previous game, also the salamanders, the rhinos did not come into combat until too late. They were afraid of me for some reason. So I managed to shoot everything out of the center. I actually had 2 hordes of braves, 1 behind each other. So if 1 dies, there's another horde of braves coming up. So that was a pretty easier game for me. I didn't time out. I just shot him the entire game. I mean, his volley guns took out 1 Iron Beast, which I was okay.
Did you shoot at the volley guns at all?
Towards the end, yes. After I killed all the infantry, I shot at the volley guns. So yeah, he had scouts. The scouts were chef protecting the volley guns. So I shot the scouts first, then infantry, then the volley guns at the end. Because I mean, but towards the end of the game, it didn't really matter. 1 volley gun can't do much damage to to 2 hordes of Braves. Or I mean, my poachers and my troll gunners were intervened the whole game, so no point shooting them.
Three
So yeah,
polygons into a brave would do a lot of damage, wouldn't it?
yes, but by then I had 2 hordes, they were fresh. So it was
Right.
like turn 5, turn 6. So and I still had 1 horde with the Iron Resolve plus Radiance.
Hmm.
So they were healing some wounds back as well. So yeah, he was full focus on the Iron Beast. People get so distracted by the Iron Beast. They shoot the Iron Beast, which I'm happy for them to waste shots on defense 6. Even though Iron Beast dying hurts, but it's only unit strength 1. So that's the that
How
was my plan.
for those people that shot at the Iron Beast, like when did it go down? Turn 3, turn 2, turn 4?
Usually it goes down turn 3 or turn 4. Turn
Right.
1 usually is not in range, or if I try not to let them shoot on turn 1, turn 2 maybe they shoot it a little bit, because I can't really hide the Iron Beast. It's height 5. I want him to be projecting, being like a defense 6 wall, doing a threat, because people don't want to get charged by Iron Beast because of the wall charge 1 from the engineer plus my sorcerer. So potentially 14 inches. So my sorcerer most of the time was just doing rally. So people are afraid that I might roll for wild charge. I think I rolled for wild charge maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the whole tournament. I didn't get it all the time, but it's just a threat of that keeping people on their toes. I mean,
That's something I advocate. Like, you don't have to roll wild charge. That's the threat that you might have a wild charge 3. Means everyone will have to keep 3 extra inches away.
Yeah, which it gives me a bit more time and space to shoot. And I find that the Iron Beast shooting is pretty good because it's height 5. He can
5
see
shots
over.
only though. 5 shots only.
But
And
you have
piercing 1.
When you have 2 Iron Beasts, it's 10 shots. Piercing
But
1.
compared to Gorlock's Fury, what shooting does Gorlock's Fury have? It's much better, right? Gorlock's Fury.
God Fury is definitely better. God Fury has more shots, 12 shots, I believe, at 18 inches. But God Fury is, I would say definitely better than the Iron Beast, because God Fury also has wild charge D3 built in. So God Fury, but you do pay the price for God Fury. It's
12
not
shot,
cheap.
18 inch, piercing 2, but no
Piercing
steady aim if you upgrade to Gorlock's Fury.
So no steady aim. So on 5s most of the time, because you're going to be moving, it's almost 300 points. So it's a lot more points. Yeah, God of Fury is good. It's quite scary, but you really need to add more shots to God of Fury. Like, I would say 10 shots, 4 plus steady aim with piercing 1 is not much worse than 12 shots piercing 2 with no steady aim. It's
I've seen,
comparable.
my latest battle report, I think Alex Chavez with Gorlock's Fury, it stayed on the deployment line to shoot for the first 2 turns before it started to move up. So it was contributing shots early game. With
that is you if you go second.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go first, you're not gonna shoot.
Yeah, I guess you move up and you hopefully stay still to shoot turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, still, Grocery is good, no doubt about it. But in terms of combat output, they're not almost the same.
Right.
CS2, CS3, D6 plus 10, D6 plus 12. So I think for the points wise,
It is 50 points cheaper, I think.
More than that, the standard Iron Beast without the pride upgrade is 210.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a lot of difference.
Yeah, that's 80 points. That's like a regiment of Braves, basically. Or engineer. Yeah. Engineers are so good. If I could somehow squeeze a third engineer, I would. 3 plus shooting is insanely good. Even with cover, it's 4 plus. So plus the boomstick on the sorcerer really helps. Just adding on to the firepower. Just that something like your goblin list, you need a lot. You need to plan your shots. You need to be very efficient with your time, because you have so many things to shoot at, with so many different things to move. And yeah, I think goblins have it worse, definitely.
Yeah.
In terms of drops and all that. So yeah, it's not easy. You had a previous article on Destiny about shooting. Shooting is not easy to pilot. I think where it goes over the line is where people bring way too much shooting, like 8 Scorchwing Hordes or something. You still have a lot of rebel and to hold the line and stuff at least. So that's, and you're Goblin King or Chariot.
Yeah, what would you say would be your top 3 units that performed very well during the tournament? Or top
To
few
me,
if you can't think of 3 or you have more than 3.
To me, I would say the engineers. Definitely, engineers bring a lot of dependable shooting
Mm-hmm.
to the list. They also inspire. They also give all charge, so they're multi-purpose unit. Then I think the
They also give Iron
harvesters
Resolve, right? They give, is it
yeah.
Iron?
No,
Or
they
Radiance,
only give
Radiance. They give
yeah, they give
Radiance.
yeah, and they have Iron Resolve for 1 unit. So I think the unsung hero of the list are the harvesters. Because harvesters are the only unit that hits on trees in the list with CS1, TC1, and brutal, which is very helpful. People don't like, nobody charges the harvester unless they know they can take it out. But even then, I will have support coming in. So the harvester is a super great unit with big shield, and D6+8 is quite a lot of attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's speed 5, but with the wild charge aura up to 14, so that people do fear the harvester. And also the last one would be the forest road gunners. I think forest road gunners they're not an easy unit to use. I think during our test games I threw them away quite easily, and people tend to shoot them. But if you deploy them well, generally in the flank or in very good terrain, I think they can really do a lot of work, because they are perfect for holding objectives, holding zones. Even if you send a light unit to charge them, they'll probably kill it, and they have regen, so they're quite resilient in that sense. Yeah, they just don't have Tinker. If they have Tinker, they'll be so good, because there'll be more synergy with the engineer and the Radiance of Knife.
All right.
And the Watchers. Yeah.
What about the poachers, man? The poachers.
Poachers, to be honest, they did okay. I mean, when they get charged, they die pretty much. But they're the 24-inch shooting that I need in the army. 24 shots at 24-inch. They do have steady aim, so I have to scout them up a little bit every turn. I think 24 shots. Their target is mostly other shooters.
Yeah, I think they have dependable shooting. And the key is they have stealthy and spell ward. So once they scout into terrain, most things are shooting them at -2.
Yeah,
and
-2.
That is usually a 6 or 7+, and nobody wants to shoot at them 6 or 7+. Even when I was playing my goblins against you, I'm like, I don't want to shoot at you, but you're pumping out 24 shots a turn. You are putting a lot of wounds on my rebel. You're shooting at my winged. Even in cover, it's just 5+. And that's how you eventually dismantled the army. Yeah, and yeah, the forest troll gunners, they are squishy if they get shot at. I realized I won my first game partially because I shot your forest troll gunners first against you with my goblins. And the second game, you deploy them at the corner. And then so I just focus on the Iron Beast instead. I'm not sure if my sharp stick throwers were in range to shoot at your forest troll gunner, because I'm deployed in the center right while your trolls are on the top left. I'm not sure if it's within 48-inch. So
probably
I should have shot at that for sure.
Yeah, because I was shooting. I shot off like a rebel. I shot a king. I mean, it does. I mean, it's still 15-17. I mean, 16-17 with things. So 15-17 is still not easy to shoot off. But if you dedicate enough firepower and don't let it regenerate, I think it's But either way, it's a great unit. I mean, with Pathfinder, I think for objectives last turn, I could move 12 to pick up the objectives. So yeah, I think I haven't really tried the Forest Troll Sergeant, the hero version. I don't really rate him that well, but maybe he could work. We'll see what changes that if any, for Clash, for Halflings. I think Halflings, there are some units that might need a little help. We'll see if it's a new army, so people are still experimenting with it. So I think it's To me, the poachers they remind me of my rangers. I used to play dwarf rangers. I love the rangers.
Mhm.
They're the similar multi-purpose unit. So very similar.
I
But
think the
rangers
poachers are much better, right? Especially at the price point.
yes, poachers are cheaper, better, but the rangers hit a bit harder with CS1, and
Mm.
one of them also has stealthy, the handpicked rangers. So
Right.
I miss the days where you could have two regiments that were handpicked, the formation. For those who remember
Right.
in the version 2.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we looked at the winners halfling
yeah,
list,
very different
and
from mine.
you were looking at it. We have another local halfling player, KJ, looking at it, and even I was looking at it. You know, I know quite a bit about halflings playing against you and tinkering with the list together with you, and like it looks not strong. It's so difficult. He took a lot of units that a lot of us say they're not good, and yeah, and he won the tournament. So kudos to the winner. How do you pronounce his name?
Peter. I think
Peter.
most of us just called him Peter.
Right.
So I mean,
Polish. So
yeah, he's Polish. He's from the Kings of Warsaw.
mm,
So they have a very cool T-shirt where Kings of War, then they put a saw, Warsaw, like their capital. So I think, I mean, from what I didn't really see how he played, but he just has a lot of threats. He has 7 flying units. Half of his army flies. Most of them have actually his entire army has nimble, except for the 2 halfing rifle hordes, which apparently he charges them in. KJ was telling me that he charged his rifle horde into back hunters and killed the back hunters.
mm.
Yeah, so maybe charging a stealthy unit is better than shooting a stealthy unit on 6s, I guess. Because you
Yeah.
still have 20 attacks, you still on hitting on 5s. You know, you never know what will happen. So just a lot of it's a very interesting list. It's definitely not easy to pilot. There's a lot of shots. There's a total of I don't know 70 shots easily. Because he has
2 halfling
40
hordes.
and he has
Wild
wild
runners,
runners
which
of
are the shooting like calf.
20, yeah. So like wow, so it's 58, about 60 shots or so.
Mm.
Yeah. 70 actually. Of 71 shots to be exact. So not easy to pilot. And runners, 1240, you know, they die to Steve Breeze. And I think it would have been interesting if he had played another shooty list that would have shot off his units. But he has a lot of units. He has lots of units to throw at you. And he didn't run any Iron Beast, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So no Iron Beast. So I think the aeronauts, the master captains and the aeronauts can do a lot of work. I mean, they can definitely take down a flank on their own with their speed and the rolls can spike for aeronauts. As I think in the game with Tom, his aeronauts took out the Chimera on the counter charge, which shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The Chimera is 1719. Aeronauts are only CS2.
6 wounds
So
on average.
yeah, 6. I mean, if you want to spike, maybe you can go 10, but but even then, I mean, I tried aeronauts. Aeronauts are not easy to use. Speed 7 is a weird speed to be in. It's not fast, but it's not slow.
Mm.
You know, you want to be at least speed 8 or speed 9. Speed 7, you're charging 14, maybe 15 with the
Wall charge.
Tinker Ball charge, which he didn't even have.
Mm.
So I think he just used the runners and lancers
To
as
screen.
first
Yeah.
wave. The screen, then the aeronauts second wave, then the aeronauts go for flanks, with the rifles providing some shooting support in the middle. That's how I would play it. So it's an interesting list.
All right. So I think we have done enough recap and sort of a mini halfling analysis breakdown for those people who have yet to face halflings. They're pretty strong lists.
Maybe I can just take a minute to appreciate the Trident player, Ian Sturgis. His list looks super. Doesn't look, it looks very. It just has one of everything basically. I mean, he has 1 tool, 2 heart piercers, 1 depth horrors, 1 gigas, 1 tidal swarm, 1 knuckle, 1 coral giant, 1 centurion, 1 knight envoy. You don't see a lot of knight envoys running around. Actor, 1 depth horror eternal, and the formation. So he basically took 1 of everything and still did pretty well. I think he went 5-1. He's a great player. Doesn't play as often anymore, but I think what he did with this list is pretty good. He had no items except for the boots of levitation and the loot.
No, loot's blade of slashing.
Yeah, blade of slashing. I
Less
mean, his
items,
items are, yeah, he spent maybe 50 points on items, 60 points on items. So yeah, just units, 1 of each unit, you know. And it's an interesting list that did quite well.
Right, but I
Quite
think he
remarkable.
has been playing Trident for longest time. Back then when I
Yes,
played in Call to Arms, he
Newbie.
was already
Yeah.
the Trident realm player.
Yeah, he's just not been playing in a lot of face-to-face events, I suppose. Very, very nice guy. I met him in Clash 2019 as well.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, well, I think we're closing out the podcast soon. Just a quick shout out that we are having a Clash of Kings Asia, 13 January 2024. It's a joint event between Singapore and Malaysia. The event will be held in Malaysia. So they're still finalizing the venue, but they're pretty certain that they could secure one. So the date has been
We'll
set.
see.
Right now it's set for 4 games in 1 day on a Saturday. So yeah, starting out not too big, not too small, and yeah, I think partially is venue constraint. So we're keeping it 1 day for now. If it takes off, maybe there'll be a 2-day event in future.
Yeah, I think a 2-day event would be maybe more attractive for people to travel to. Obviously, maybe people from Australia. We know that there are players out there in other parts of Asia, even in China, Steve mentioned, in Thailand, in Philippines, a few pockets in Indonesia. So hopefully with this first Clash of Kings Asia in Kuala Lumpur next year on the 13th of January 2024, we will slowly build on that and expand. We have about 20 or so signups. So far, hopefully we can get a bit more. I think for Singapore, we have almost 10 from Singapore alone.
Yeah.
So that's a good number.
Yeah, it's 2,000 points with a 60-minute clock. So 2,000 points partially because we're squeezing 4 games in a day. Yeah, and clock is an interesting animal. I haven't been playing on clock very often, so it's quite a challenge, especially now that I'm taking goblins. And yeah, I do hope to play on clock in future all the time, because without clock, you have the luxury of figuring out the best move, but on the clock, you can't figure out the best move, so it changes the game quite a bit. You just have to just think of a good enough strategy and go ahead with it. And of course, the mistakes are bound to happen. My Goblin Rebel just moved up and got charged in the flank by poachers, which was a pretty painful mistake for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do realize that shooting the engineer, I think there was one turn that I blasted 2 trombones into the engineer. That was a mistake. Although I wavered it, but wasn't worth it. I should have blasted further into the Braves. I think the previous round, I think I shot into Braves and they rolled very poorly, and then that's why I decided to do something else on the next turn. But I should have just continued shooting at the Braves, because they are end of the day is what scores that matters. But the engineers were definitely very annoying because they keep shooting and wavering my Wingits and eventually killing them off. Which
engineers are. Engineers are. I think 3+ shooting should not be allowed in the game, but I'm just going to use it while I can.
So will you be trying to go to Clash UK annually, or what do you think?
It really depends on the date. I think I need to bring my wife if I'm going again, for sure. And if it falls during the September school holidays, then there's still a chance. But if it doesn't, I can't bring her because of her work schedule. So it's unlikely that I can go next year. I mean, things change. We'll see. And it's for what I hear from Steve, it's going to be same venue and 180 players.
Right.
So they only have space for 180. I think something they didn't mention was the side table. So everybody had a small side table beside each table, which was fantastic. You put your army, you can put your staff. This was
Yeah.
very good. There were no tables side to side, back to back, side to side. So it was very comfortable and it was just a blast to play Kings of War in. Because I've been to tournaments where there's no table, it's all
No place to put
end
your
to
stuff
end.
before they deploy, no place to put your
Yeah,
killed
no
units.
place, units and all that. So having the side tables really helps. So they don't want to sacrifice on that. So because of that, they can go up to 180.
Right.
So maybe from there they can go up to, I mean, 100 anything more than 150 to 200 is fantastic in terms of the game. So we'll see how it goes. I'm very happy that the game is growing, and maybe we can have another episode in future about the upcoming release of the old world and how it will affect Kings of War. I'm gonna do a pod with Mantic Universe podcast actually on that. Basically a short segment with Mark Zielinski, formerly from Countercharge. We're gonna talk about that. We have some thoughts, some small thoughts on that before we can maybe go in depth in future. So because that is definitely it targets the same segment of players, people that play rank or flag. So there's only so much of us to go around. So we'll see.
All right, with that, we'll wrap the episode up. And just before I go, I'd like to shout out to my patrons. I am on Patreon, so it is patreon.com/newbiedice. So if you enjoy the content that I'm making, whether it's tactical discussions, community discussions via the podcast or my battle report videos, you can help support me on Patreon, because doing this takes a lot of time and effort and work, and I'm still a working class citizen. So yeah, it does take away from my personal and work time to maintain all the content. So yeah, and I would like to thank my supporters who are supporting me via Patreon. And we have 1 Peep Anonymous, 2 Peep Luke Schaefer, and a new patron, Thomas Douglas. He's stationed in Japan and he's gonna come for our
Hey Thomas.
Clash of Kings Asia.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you, man.
Yep, it's an American station in Japan. And 4 Peep Alessandro Surfeit, thank you all so much for your support. And with that, do remember to like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next content. Bye, everyone.
Bye.